Why do people love horror movies? I don't. I much prefer the warm and fuzzies than the heebie-jeebies. However, there's one thing that overrides my self-preservation instinct, my curiosity. I want to go into the abandoned house at the end of the street, take my about to run out of batteries torch down to the dark basement, get into a car that notoriously won't start, not check the back seat, and open the cabinet of curiosities that is horror movies. If you love horror movies, leave a comment below. Why? Why are they so popular? Why does getting scared appeal to so many people? And can exposure therapy lead to my enjoyment of horror movies? Wait, guys, no, we're not making me watch any horror movies, are we? Yep, I'm watching 3 horror movies back to back to back to find out why people love horror movies and if I can too. This horror crash course touches on 3 pillars of the genre and increasing in levels of pants pooping. I've hired a cinema, put cameras all over, and am tracking my heart rate using the other activity on my watch because that's what it's there for, right? All right. Here we go. To truly test my mettle and see what the screaming is all about.
Do not go raw dogging 3 horror movies in one day if you've never done it before.
First up is Friday the 13th from 1980. Spoiler alert, I thought this was a bad time. But just you wait until we get to film 3.
Okay.
In case you haven't noticed, I'm a big scaredy cat. I would much rather watch an animated kids movie like Inside Out 2, signposting for later, or an easygoing, lighthearted rom-com than some adrenaline-pumping, fear-inducing sweat fest that will leave me sleeping with the lights on. So who better to talk to than a bunch of similarly spooked sirs who can sherpa me through the scares? The Scaredy Boys.
Collectively, we are the Scaredy Boys. We run a podcast about cowards watching horror films, basically.
We are 3 idiots.
Yeah,
Essentially. We've done this to ourselves.
My plan is to sort of progressively ramp up the scares, but have you got any advice to sort of exposure therapying this thing?
Well, I'll start by saying I think it's awesome that you're going on this journey. So welcome to this weird road that you're walking.
I think horror can take you through the most extreme emotions available in cinema.
Right. Yeah.
And I think it's when you watch as much as we do, and you sort of keep a very open mind to what you're watching, it can make you sort of probably change your worldview, I think, and the way you think about the world and the way you think about stories.
There's also a strong personal reason why I want to upskill my horror chops. My wife! I love my wife Claire, the unassuming little pocket rocket that she is. And she has a dark side and loves horror movies.
There's something really beautiful about watching the human experience in usually inhuman circumstances. Just because you're choosing to close the door doesn't mean the door isn't there. Doesn't mean that all those things aren't still there. You're just choosing not to look at them. And I think sometimes if we choose to look at them, we can learn a lot about ourselves.
This is much deeper than I thought it would go.
The closest we've ever gotten to watching horror movies together is me sitting with her while she watches Dead Meat and The Kill Count. Shout out to my boy, James A. Janice. And it's fine for me because those guys are funny and it's just the highlights without the stress. But it's not enough.
I want to take our relationship to the next level. I want it to get freaky.
Cool.
So I want to share this hobby with her and try and understand why she loves horror movies. So I'm going back to the beginning. The horror genre was kicked off with the most obvious movie of all, Scary Movie. The 90s is widely believed to be where the first horror movie can be found. Oh, my bad, the 1890s, with a 3-minute film called Le Manoir du Diable, which translates nicely into The House of the Devil. While not necessarily scary, it does feature skeletons, ghosts, bats, and the devil, so set a precedent of what would follow. Jumping forward to the 20s and 30s, classics like The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari and Nosferatu made clear attempts to unsettle the audience. We could talk about the history in a lot more detail, but for brevity's sake, the Hammer Horror Company was founded in 1934. Hitchcock did lots for establishing the slasher genre. George A. Romero kick-started zombie movies, and the occult possessed the 70s and 80s. But then, where a lot of the tropes we all know, and some of us love, they all came from the slasher movie. Jump scares, relentless killers, twist endings, splitting up the group.
Don't worry, Jesse, I'll be right back.
Was
stairs! Don't go in there! The Final Girl, the place with the history, and one last scare. This eerie era bred horror franchises like Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, and of course, Friday the 13th, the first movie I was subjected to.
No, nope. Don't do it.
I give this 2 out of 10 poops in the pants on the fear scale and 5 out of 10 smiles on the joy scale, inside out. See, told you it would come into play again. It's dated, it's camp, quite literally, and it's packed a whole lot of bacon. Not too bad.
So that was Friday the 13th. Not what I thought. How did that become a franchise? Alright.
Can only get worse from here. Now there's a lot of science behind why horror is so successful, and there's equally a lot of philosophical debate on the implications of its success. Because horror has existed for such a long time, we've been able to hone in the skill of really scaring an audience. For example, there's a science behind the jump scares. Now I know what you're all thinking. Jump scares are just scary because they're sudden. Well, there's a science behind the anticipation and suspense of a jump scare. The score and sound effects have to reveal just enough to make you curious, but hold back information like the story that's unfolding visually. Then the scare happens and triggers a startle response. Your body jumps into defensive mode and gets adrenaline pumping.
Blood is rushing into your muscles, and that's what we call a pump.
Aristotle, you know, this guy, he believed that consuming emotionally extreme media was cathartic. For a person to experience adrenaline and fear, then quickly resolve it afterwards, well, it proved helpful and beneficial to purge or cleanse yourself emotionally.
What a rush.
But that does seem to contradict recent studies that showed desensitization to horror and violence might actually cause a higher likelihood for someone to enact violence if they're predisposed to it. So, I don't know, regardless of where you land between these two opposing ideals, you can't argue that the psychological nature of horror is gripping, whether you enjoy that fear or not. Speaking of...
Don't love this, bit scared and I'm gonna piss my pants.
The Babadook gets 8 out of 10 poops in pants and 8 out of 10 smiles from me. The performances were excellent and the scares truly scared me.
Don't go down there.
No.
But I think I connected most to Samuel, the 6-year-old boy.
Oh, buddy.
Tell you what though, dark corners of bedrooms can go and get Can't wait for film 3. Today, horror is thriving and remains one of the most successful genres in the entertainment industry. You sickos love it. It's evolved to match modern times with emerging subgenres like torture porn, technological advances, or socio-political commentary. Along with next-level visual effects, more terrifying sound design, and industry leaders creating immersive and terrifying worlds, rich in lore and Easter eggs. I've always admired horror filmmakers being able to create incredible stories for minute budgets. In comparison to the MCUs of the world, some of the most critically and commercially successful horror films punched way above their weight. The fact that you don't actually need a $100 million budget to create a great horror means it's a viable route for emerging artists to put their hat in the ring, be heard, and prove their talent. Talk to Me was an incredible box office hit from two Aussie brothers who had a clear vision and made it work for a tiny budget. Speaking of tiny things, this is the movie where Toni Collette made tiny things.
Oh God, I've been exposed to so much today.
Hereditary gets 5 out of 10 poops in pants and 8 out of 10 smiles from me. This was hyped as the scariest movie of the bunch, but it was more unsettling than anything else.
Don't like that.
Again, performances were phenomenal, but I tell you what,
Those pesky boys and girls at A24, they can go rethink what they've done with their lives. What are you doing?
I think horror as a genre is doing the most interesting stuff in cinema.
Taking stories that are already really interesting and engaging and then adding a spooky element to it. And I think it's unbeatable, nearly.
Yeah, because in so many ways, horror is just like any other kind of storytelling. It's just that the stakes are through the roof. They're just way higher than any other drama out there. So it is life or death, but it's still at its core just good storytelling.
This whole experience has really opened my eyes to the horror genre. Would I recommend mainlining 3 movies cold turkey back to back to back in the middle of the week? Not really. It certainly took its toll.
Gosh, what have I done to myself today?
But it's shown me what horror has to offer. Incredible storytelling, creative execution in every sense of the phrase, and strong emotional investment because of the insanely high stakes. As someone very wise once said, it's human experiences in very inhuman circumstances. And dare I say it, I can see the appeal. Massive thank you to the Scaredy Boys for all of their sound advice. You can find their podcast linked below. Big thank you to the cinema for letting me hijack the place for my weird YouTube channel. And of course, thank you to Claire for enlightening me into this wonderful genre that is horror. If you like the video, click the like button, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Less poop in pants, more 10 out of 10 smiles on the joy scale from me.
Okay, that's a wrap on all of this. Thanks for watching my scaredness. Why did I do this?
So YouTube thinks you'll like this video right here on the screen. So tap it, click it, go watch it right now. Might be your new favorite video of all time. Who knows?